Do you find yourself checking your blind spots more often lately? Are you taking an extra moment to really inspect that dark corner, doing a double take because that shadow shouldn't move like that? Don't worry, it's happening to me too. It probably has something to do with all the SCPs we're covering on the channel, especially the less friendly ones. In fact, even though we claim a lot of these can never escape, the Foundation has no real way to keep them sealed away, and that's the reality of a Keter threat, I guess. It's better to know the threats than to be totally ignorant of them, right? Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we've got the latest and greatest edition of a lovely collection of SCPs. We're going to take a look at our part 4 of the top 5 SCP monsters that can never escape. Holy smokes, that makes 20 of these anomalies that we need to hope never see the light of day. Before we begin the countdown, make sure to fire a big thumbs up down below and subscribe for more SCP awareness training. Wicked. Let's get started. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-939. We're going to start off with a doozy, because this SCP is best described as a big, ugly, red, bloody, unhinged jaw fish cave thing with memory loss powers. That's a mouthful, I know, but it's all true. And the last thing you want is for it to get a mouthful of you. Multiple iterations of this lovely cave dweller exist, and they are capable of bearing young, so they can multiply. How nice. 939 is an endothermic pack-based predator adapted to cave life. Its skin is highly permeable to moisture and is a translucent red color thanks to a chemical compound similar to hemoglobin. Kinda like a living blood sausage if you're into that kind of thing. I've heard they're quite delicious, but now I'm thinking about food instead of SCPs. These weird red troglobites are about 2.2 meters tall and weigh around 250 kilograms. They have 4 limbs, each ending with 3 claws and an opposable 4th digit. 939's extremities are covered in short, bristly hair-like structures which are great for climbing. Each has an elongated skull with no eyes or eye sockets, not even a brain casing to be found. But their jaws are lined with red, luminescent fang-like teeth, kind of like a viper fish. That's an ugly sucker right there. Along their dorsal ridges run eye spots and spiny protrusions that are sensitive to light and air pressure respectively. They are likely used to navigate the caves they seem so adapted to and seek out prey. The weird thing about their prey-seeking tendencies though is that they have no apparent need to feed. These hemoglobin hobgoblins are without vital organ systems. No central or peripheral nervous systems, no circulatory systems, no digestive tract. So they have no way of digesting the tissue that they consume, and instead they let it accumulate in their respiratory system till there's too much and then they regurgitate it. Nothing sexier than regurgitating festering meat from your lungs, right? SCP-939 is able to imitate human speech as well, an ability that it uses primarily to lure in victims. It will pretend to be distressed with voices so perfectly imitated biometric voice recognition systems can't tell it apart from whatever it's mimicking. When prey is close enough, it will kill with a single bite to the cranium or neck, usually measured in excess of 35 megapascals. Sometimes I think it would be nice to have my head placed in a hydraulic press, you know? On top of all these horrifying details, 939 also produces an aerosolized Class C amnestics of its own accord. No memories will form for the duration of exposure and for an additional 30 minutes after. Terrifying visage, the ability to play copycat, a skull-crushing bite, and memory inhibition. Let's just say you wouldn't want to meet one of these guys while out spelunking. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-1313. I always thought math was pretty scary on its own. Through my schooling, I found solace in English, philosophy, media studies, but never math. My brain just isn't wired for that kind of thought. Thankfully so, too. I could have been in grave danger had I been too keen on algebra and arithmetic. SCP-1313 is an anomalous series of logical processes capable of being defined as a mathematical equation to which the answer is a single female specimen of Ursus arctos, aka a grizzly bear. I think the proper designation for a grizzly bear is Ursus arctos horribilis, but we'll leave that be for now. In layman's terms, what this means is if you reach the correct answer to the mathematical equation that SCP-1313 represents, a grizzly bear will manifest somewhere close by and start to do what grizzly bears do. Not something you want to deal with in homeroom. The numerical anomaly first came to the Foundation's attention in 1967 when a bear attack was recorded at White Cross High School. Since then, over 1,700 separate incidences of bear attacks in educational institutes has been observed, with over 1,600 fatalities and 20% of the bears still at large. Half solving the problem won't summon any predatory mammals, and there is no way to return the bear to numerical form by solving the inverse. So if you're gonna follow through with this piece of math homework, just be sure you're well equipped to fight a 200-kilogram mama bear. And if you feel that you've personally begun to figure out this equation, get yourself some amnestics as soon as possible. The problem doesn't need to be physically represented. Even solving it in your head will result in the manifestation of a bear. I always knew math was unbearable. I'll see myself out. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-638. Wine and meat. That's the good life, right? Cures what ails you, heals all wounds. Well, if you were to believe SCP-638, then that would be the case. 638 is a male human with a slim build. He's hairless and extensively scarred thanks to a fire that he was found in the remains of. It heals at an abnormal rate, directly proportional to the consumption of raw flesh and wine. Often, 638 will issue demands in the form of 1 or 2 word shouts. In the past, the demands have been things like wine, ivy, olive trees, grass for the floor, freedom, women, live animals, a drum, a flute, and a view of the sky. Apparently this guy knows how to live the good life. If these demands are not met, he will become violent and exhibit short bursts of great strength and speed. He's been known to dent steel, easily lift and throw grown men, break restraints, and shout with great force and volume. These shouts can shatter glass and deafen people, even blowing a steel door off its hinges at one point. Fortunately, these outbursts lead to lethargy if he's left without food and wine, so starvation's a pretty effective behavioral control. This SCP, while obviously physically anomalous, has one ability that stands out above the rest. 683 has a strong psychic or empathic influence over women within a radius of about 20 meters. Any woman within that range will be compelled to be in its presence, and once there will lose all inhibition. This often manifests through intense dancing, jumping, and shouting. If they're allowed to continue on, they will dance until they drop from exhaustion. Attempts to remove female subjects result in violent responses from both 638 and affected subjects. This SCP will use these folks in aid to escape, as subjects will also demonstrate greater physical prowess along with a higher level of adrenaline. Once removed from his influence, subjects demonstrate full memory of their actions and often feel intense shame if it's not something they would have otherwise done. The jury is still out on how the influence works, whether psychic or empathic, but could be something else entirely. In the meantime, hide your kids, hide your wife, because he's influencing everyone out there. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-076. I like to think of this one as being like a Terminator without the influence of Skynet. Less metal parts too, I guess. 076 is actually classified as 2 things, a stone cube and the humanoid entity contained within. The cube is covered in engraved patterns with no known origin, with 21 locks on the door. Inside is a human male estimated to be in his late 20s. He's got black hair, gray eyes, and olive skin. All over his body are tattoos depicting arcane and occult imagery. He's commonly referred to as Abel, and for simplicity's sake, I'll refer to him as such. Abel is technically dead while encased in the stone cube. Every once in a while, he will awaken and reanimate with all human vital signs. He'll then seek out the nearest human and enter a rage state in which all humans encountered are fought to the death. The only way to end this rampage is by killing Abel. This proves to be very difficult though, as he possesses superhuman physical abilities and is able to ignore pain and shock. He's been seen carrying on through seemingly deadly injuries, ripping through reinforced security doors, clearing 64 meters in under 3 seconds, taking multiple 50 cal rounds to the head and continuing to fight, swatting lower cal bullets out of the air with rebar, surviving without oxygen for more than an hour, and materializing bladed weapons out of nowhere. Is my Terminator comparison making more sense? Even when he dies, he'll turn to dust and then reform in the coffin over a period of time between 6 hours and 25 years. The lad has nothing but contempt for human beings and will fight tooth and nail to keep killing. There's a weird connection between SCP-076 and 073, and under no circumstances should they be allowed to meet. Here's hoping they keep a close eye on this one, because I'm not down to die gloriously in combat against a superhuman. Not yet, anyways. And finally, number 1, SCP-2440. I am pretty sure that I've already fallen under the influence of this one. Yep. Even before I tell you more, it's likely that you have too. Anyone into SCPs has a higher chance than most to sustain 2440 infection. Let me explain why. This SCP is an extra-dimensional entity whose power increases proportional to the number of people aware of it. Using a mimetic agent that can be inserted into any source of information, this SCP can control the actions of the infected to some degree. Once it reaches a certain level of awareness, it can extend its influence past infected individuals. I'll run down the scale that it seemingly works by. At fewer than 200 infected, the individuals influenced will demonstrate a heightened interest in horror, fantasy, fantasy and sci-fi media. They'll express interest in writing and sharing these works, which increases the infection rate. See where I'm going with this? You've probably already stumbled across some of the mimetic agent already. Meme warfare, people, with horror, sci-fi, and fantasy at the core. Once it amasses over 500 people, it can overtake the body of an infected individual and speak to all infected individuals at the same time. On its journey to 10,000, it gains reality-bending characteristics and becomes capable of manifesting itself outside of a host for short periods of time. Currently, the Foundation believes this SCP to have amassed over 10,000 people, meaning that it can control up to 1,000 individuals at one time. If it keeps up the exponential spread of the mimetic agent, it could control a projected 1 million people. This would lead to an XK class scenario, as the anomaly would be fully capable of manifesting itself outside of a host. We'd all be subject to its powers, and humanity would fall totally under its control. The Foundation is currently administering anti-mimetics and amnestics to all found to be connected to this, but it is tough to contain the spread of information. The internet tends to be resistant to censorship after all. An organization known as the Children of God worship 2440 and spread its materials as often as possible. So yeah, I don't know how long we have before this one eclipses the Foundation. Maybe there's Foundation materials already infected by the mimetic. In that case, enjoy what time you have left and prepare to bask in the glory of 2440, our meme god. Seems about right in 2019. Hopefully you feel a little more educated after that list. Whether that means you feel safer or less safe, I don't know. But at least you're aware of the threats flying your way daily. Good luck out there, folks. In the meantime, I'm going to look at some of your comments that may illuminate some of the finer points of the dangers at large. Darian V says the porn stash is great, they're all just jealous. Haha! You're goddamn right, Darian. Excuse me while I go and listen to some suggestive guitar music. Jessica Thill says, as long as I wasn't a D-class personnel, I would join SCP. Are you sure about that? One heavy dose of amnestics and you'd forget the difference between your ass and your head. D-class, here we come. Christopher Merlot says, back in the 80s, I gave myself to the pure crystalline snow. I bet you frequent a lot of dance clubs too, eh? Death Straight says, Speed Racer shirt is inappropriate for a cool horror video. Darker shirts, please. Good vid though. I'm allowed to have varied interests. Don't you anime shame me, I'll wear what I want. Thanks for the compliment though. Master of Despair says, Code Brown, find a place to hide and leave an offering of booze on your front porch. Does it have to be dark liquor or does anything count? Code Brown just makes me think of certain spirits sharing the same color. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And spiny and they seem SCP-939, that sounds like a robot. SCP-1313. Oh my goodness. Coming in at number 3, there's a low battery signal on the